Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for the support. Once again, it means the absolute world. As you can tell, completely different background. I just moved in with my girlfriend and I've been trying to get settled in my apartment, so YouTube's been on a standstill / hold until I get settled. But things are slowly easing back in. I'm getting my routine back down, so YouTube is starting back up. Today, we'll be talking about how to deal with unsupportive Asian parents. I know, this one hits very close to me. This hits very close to home. I've been there, guys. It's a very difficult process. And I get a lot of messages and DMs and comments after my most recent video about trying to get support from your parents when they disagree with your point of view and decisions in life. And guys, I'm not going to lie, it is a very difficult thing. I understand the Asian parents, and if you have an Asian tiger parent, it is so fucking hard to deal with and try to be happy and gain their approval. I get it. As a son of an immigrant parent, you want the approval from your parents in order to be happy. But guys, sometimes you won't get that, especially if you're going against the grain. I feel like our traditional Asian parents have this vision of what success is. When you deviate from that, man, they don't care. They are angry and they'll say harsh things. They'll try to tear you down in order to get their way. They'll force you down through pure willpower. And guys, I'm going to tell you, you need to set some boundaries with your parents. I'm going to say this is very, very unpleasant. This is not fun. Setting boundaries with your parents is so fucking hard, especially immigrant parents, because they don't understand the difference of individuality and freedom, that you are a son or daughter and you have your own life. Especially in America, I feel like there's this disconnect of Eastern culture going to the Western culture and trying to realize like your son, you, or daughter, you, have their own voice and can dictate their own life without their parents' approval or decision making. And I think that's a huge thing. And you're gonna have to fight for it. You have to fight for your independence and freedom and free will against your parents, especially if they don't support it. I got a comment that was really fucking sad on my most recent video. This guy was in med school and he's like 2 years in and he can't do anything about it. He fucking hates medicine, but he's just like, I don't know what to do. I want to quit, but I just can't do that because my parents they don't want to disappoint him, and it's just like so many immediate repercussions. And I think setting your boundaries, the earlier you do it, the better, because things compound and things take time. I think the power of boundaries isn't necessarily to fix your life. I think the power of boundaries is prevention. I think setting a boundary prevents problems from happening. But if you set boundaries too late, it's just damage control, it's damage mitigation. You're trying to limit the amount of damage there. But it's better to set a boundary to prevent mishaps from even happening to begin with. I think setting firm boundaries with your parents, especially Asian parents, man, this is hard. I'll give you some advice what I did. I think growing up, I went against the grain, and my mom didn't really approve of the things I did and things I wanted to do. I adopted a very Western mentality, very individualistic freedom, Western world, and she kind of hated that. She wanted to have like an authoritarian power over me. This is an Asian mother. She kind of wanted me to do things when I was younger and more aligned with her. But eventually around middle school and high school, they set these firm boundaries, set these very early on, like going to sleepovers during the week or going to birthday parties in the week. I remember I had to fight for the right to go on like sleepovers or play dates or going on a date with a girl. My mom was so against that. She was like, you put your head down, work until you're 30, then get a girlfriend. And I was like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I think it's better to be integrated with the opposite sex, learn how to communicate with the opposite gender, be friends, be cool, be suave, be chic. So then when you finally grow up, you know how to communicate with the opposite gender and have healthy relationships. And I had to fight for that. I was like, look, I'm going to do this shit behind your back. Unless they ground me, I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna sneak out. You have no power over me. And I had to fight for this. Of course, I was disappointing my parents, of course. But truly in my heart, I believed that was right. I think another thing was just like, you just gotta believe in it, and you understand that the immediate consequences are you probably won't be best of buds with them. You won't be like homies. You won't be cool with them for a while. And I think that's what happens. Trust me, setting boundaries is a very difficult, disgusting thing to do that you need to do that's gonna help you in the long run in order to have a healthy, prosperous relationship. I think what happens is if you don't set healthy boundaries, you're gonna resent your parents. You're gonna resent your friends. You're gonna resent everyone for not believing in you. And if you want them to have a place in your life, you have rules. You put this box, this criteria, and be like, you need to meet this or I don't accept you. As well as having leeway and be like, some people are doing their best they can. But truly, like, if someone I love truly does not accept me for who I am, and I truly believe what I'm doing is right, doesn't hurt anyone else, doesn't harm anyone, doesn't really harm myself, but you might not approve of it, fuck off, right? It's just like that whole mentality. Like, trust me, sitting down with my mom growing up and being like, hey, I'm going to Cal Poly, I'm majoring in psychology, I'm going on dates, like I'm leaving this state. Leaving the state of Colorado, I won't be home. I'll be in California. I'm going to Maryland. I mean, my mom was always genuinely supportive after that, right? But setting the boundaries early on when I was young was so difficult. So difficult. I remember she used to force us to go to this like church. She wanted us to become more involved with the church and religion. And I was like, really had some issues with this church. I did not like it. It was an awful experience. But I think sitting down there, like, yo, I would rather die than go to this church right now. It really got to that point where I was just like, I don't care. You could ground me, you could hurt me, whatever. She can do that. I'm just saying, you could ground me, you can inflict punishment, but I do not care. I'm not budging. And once you accept that consequence, they really can't hurt you anymore. And I understand when you're younger than 18, living under their roof, getting financial support, you can't really say shit. I'm sorry. If you're getting fed, housed, and they're paying for your school, college, whatever, and giving you monetary funds, I don't think you have the power to tell your parents anything because you're living off their money. But once you get your own job and move out, you can do what the fuck you want. I think the number one thing I'd say is save up some money and move out. Live on your own, live with some roommates, is get away from that power. Because if they're not in your immediate vicinity, you can't really say anything, guys. So if you really want to pursue like art or something, I think art's the number one thing. I have a lot of Asians who love art and they want to become an artist or something. I understand starved artist mentality, but like, look, be smart, okay? I mean, number examples, like my friend loves art. He wants to quit his job to continue doing it. And his parents don't approve of it. They want him to be like an accountant. He's just like, I hate this accounting thing. And look at it. He saved up some money, moved out, did his own thing. And his parents didn't speak for a while. I think that's it's a really sad thing, right? He's like, look, my parents aren't willing to accept me. Therefore, we can't have this communication relationship. I'm sorry. I love this so much. I love you. Maybe one day you can love me. But right now, I can't do this. I love you. And it breaks my heart that we can't have this open line of communication and that you won't accept me for what I am and you trying to force this, such as an occupation that you don't want me to be happy, we can no longer have a relationship. And then it's super difficult. I mean, he just had to contact his parents like 2-3 months. It's just zero contact. And eventually they're like, oh shit, he's not fucking around. And send that enforcement and boundaries. Like it is tough. But eventually, they were talking now. They have some relationships here and there, and they kind of came full circle, and they're okay with it now because it's better to have your child be happy than them resent you not having that. And I think it's just training wheels, guys. I think you got to like operantly condition your parents in the way you want them to treat you. But that starts with boundaries. And it's such an unpleasant thing. Trust me, they're your parents, right? Especially your dad and mother. Asian parents are fucking scary. They are legitimately scary. And especially growing up in America, I think they have a disconnect of what the real world is, and it's not Asia anymore. And I think that's the number one thing is realizing like your parents sometimes like, yo, we're not in Asia anymore. We're not in China. We're not in Hong Kong. We're not in Vietnam. We're not under this patriarchal like organization, institution where the man leads everything, or just the fact that your parents are in your life. Like, no, like you are an individual with a mind. You can do whatever the fuck you want as long as it doesn't hurt anyone or really hurt yourself. I think it's okay. I think you have a right to be happy. And sometimes happiness comes at the expense of your parents' disapproval, but that's kind of selfish. Honestly, your parents really love you, they'll support you, and you got to train them. Honestly, my advice is no contact. If your parents won't accept you for who you are, to start limiting your experiences with negative people. I think negative, toxic parents will destroy your mental health, destroy your efficiency in life. And I think it's really, really sad. It's really sad, but you have to do it because you can't live under this like dictatorship. You can't live under their wrath and their approval because that's just toxic, manipulative, gaslighting behavior. And trust me, Asian parents, some cruel ones will gaslight the shit out of you. And it's so sad, but you have to stand strong and realize, hey, the less I talk to you, the less I interact with you, the better my life. And sometimes your parents won't change. Accept that could be a possibility. Sometimes your parents will not change. It sucks. Both parties have to be involved in the healing and changing process for any great results to happen. But if you're the only one putting in work and your parents don't support you, I'm sorry, guys, like, your relationship's not going to be buddy-buddy. It's not going to be like the best thing there, but you have to accept it for what it is. And maybe one day they'll come around, but have some patience. But once you set boundaries and give it like a year or two, I hope they'll come around. I'm not saying they will. Some people will never change. I get that. But if they truly love you and they make the effort, I think that's okay. But just see them for who they are and understand that at the end of the day, they're your parents. They love you. They support you to an extent. But sometimes, you're a grown-ass man. You're a grown individual. Stand on your own 2 feet, move out, make your own decisions, and make a healthy, loving, adult, mature relationship. But realize these things take time and effort, especially with toxic people. If you have toxic parents, trust me, it is super, super hard. It is so arduous, and I have so much empathy. The great thing is I wanted to let you know that it's possible. I set very firm boundaries with my mother because, she grew up in a very Asian culture and was quite strict on my brother. And eventually I fought that tooth and nail. I was like, I will never be treated like this. I see what you did to my brother. I will not major in something that you want me to just because it's safe and secure. But I'm going to do what I want. And if I make mistakes, I will own those mistakes. It's my own life. It's my own mistakes. You get one shot at this. And when you're young, if you fuck up, I don't think there's really anything that's fuck ups unless you do like a ton of negative things that affects your consequences long term or financial prosperity. Yeah. But if I major in psychology, things didn't work out, I don't know. I have time to bounce back. But the thing is, I majored in psychology and I did become successful. There's inherent risk that I realized. I understand that psych undergrads really don't make that much money. I think the median income is like $30,000 and you require higher education to get a great career. But you know what I did? I made myself very valuable, had a great resume, cover letter, did a lot of things outside psychology, did a lot of marketing. Now I'm a management consultant and my mom accepts me. I don't know. I think a while when I was younger doing psychology, she was always supportive necessarily, but she was definitely afraid. But I think very early on in my life, man, fighting my mom was so hard. Just trying to have friends. She would never let me go play with other kids. She wanted me to study 24/7 and didn't really let me like play outside. I had to do school. And it's just like the outside was this dangerous world. But eventually I realized like, look, I'm going to do this thing whether you're here or not. And I'll do it safe. And I think a great parable, I think Osho said this, and I hope this really rings true to you guys. I think he said, as a kid, I loved climbing trees. And my dad used to fight me, scream at me, and lock me inside the house so I could never climb this tree. And eventually he said, Dad, why don't you teach me how to not fall from the tree instead of preventing me from climbing trees even though you know I'm going to climb this tree? Teach me how to not fall. And I think that's a great metaphor for your parents, is teaching you how not to fall. And I think that's a better route than controlling you. As always, if you want a one-on-one consultation, email me at bedroomtalkconsult@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram, see what I'm up to. Or follow me on Instagram to see what I'm up to at m.deep20. As always, wish you the best. Namaste.